Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Water Online Show studios here in America's birthplace, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is the WWEMA update, where we are highlighting the role and value of the Water and Wastewater Equipment Manufacturers Association and updating our members on all happenings and exciting things in 2026 that WWEMA members can look forward to. For manufacturers navigating evolving regulations, supply chain challenges, and rapidly advancing technologies, having a unified industry voice matters now more than ever. WWEMA brings together leading equipment manufacturers to collaborate, advocate, and help shape policies and standards that impact the entire water industry. This update that we're doing right now is designed to explore how WWEMA supports its members through advocacy, market intelligence, networking opportunities, industry leadership, and why being part of this community can help companies stay informed, connected, and competitive in today's water and wastewater marketplace. So let's dive in. It's my privilege to introduce the man who needs no introduction. He is our WWEMA chairman for 2026, the globally recognized icon of Aqua, idol of H2O, Mr. Tom McCurdy. Welcome to the WWEMA update.
Wow. How am I going to live up to that? I mean, really?
I don't think you have to do any more work than be just who you are, Tom. I mean, you are recognized in the industry. You are the leader of our organization here for 2026, and we are happy, definitely happy about that. All due respect to those that have come before you. They have done a magnificent job, but I'm excited about what's in store for 2026. I know our membership is too. So let's dive into it.
Let's do it.
First things first, I wanted to start where WWEMA really began, its roots, which is advocacy. So, I mean, at its core, WWEMA represents its members' interests in legislative and regulatory issues affecting water and wastewater, that sector in Washington, D.C. Being that part of WWEMA gives members a collective voice in shaping policies that impact their business and their operations. So let's dive into that. What are some of the topics that WWEMA is tackling this year that our members can bring back to their companies to run their business better? What are we talking about?
Yeah, last week was a good example of advocacy in action by WWEMA. We had our board meeting last Wednesday, and on Thursday, we scheduled some in-person meetings with various members of Congress.
That's in DC, right?
In DC,
you were
yes.
live in DC.
Yes,
Got it.
yes, and you had mentioned the cradle of democracy, Philly. I actually am going. I am in Coatesville right now, so I'm adjacent to the cradle. Anyway,
That's it. It's a birthplace. Maybe not the cradle, but definitely the birthplace.
The birthplace.
So the cradle, all the happenings are in DC. So I want to hear more about
absolutely.
your Capitol Hill visit.
So we did visit with a couple of staffers from Senator Capito from West Virginia and Senator Whitehouse from Rhode Island.
Yeah.
We met with some of their staffers. Now they're both of those senators are on the Environmental and Public Works committees. So, we have their ear. And so, we talked about BABA, we talked about tariffs, but once we started to talk about PFAS, we really got their attention. And
the ears perked up.
Yeah, the ears perked up, and more questions came. It's very interesting when you talk to these staffers because they must have at least a dozen meetings every single day. And you really have to catch them at the right time and the right topic. And we did when we talked about PFAS. And where the advocacy comes into play is that right now the federal government is treating the PFAS as a hazardous chemical, which it is, but it also spreads to the manufacturers of the processes that are trying to destroy the PFAS,
right,
which comes into play with our membership. And if the regulations are too stringent and tight, it will discourage those manufacturers from either entering that market. When the reality is they are not. They shouldn't be placed in the same realm as the generators of the PFAS. We're trying to do something about the problem. So we are at the location of all those passive receivers, all of those wastewater treatment plants that are trying to clean up the water and clean up the sludge so that the PFAS doesn't enter into the equation.
Without a doubt. So, what would be one thing that you really took away from those meetings on Capitol Hill in terms of what we should be looking forward to as members of WWEMA in 2026 related specifically to PFAS?
Well, it's as Claudio says, it's like water on rock. You know,
Right.
you have to continue to keep their attention. You have to continue to voice this message. I don't see anything that's immediate, but I do see steps along the way that ultimately will make it more manageable for our manufacturers, especially those that are in the PFAS destruction business, to do business without the concern about being held to the same restrictions as those producers.
I mean, and let's be clear, without being part of WWEMA, you're not getting these one-off meetings with senators and staffers. It's not happening. It's the fact that it's WWEMA, this recognized body that's been around for over a century. WWEMA is the one that's getting the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they would welcome individual manufacturers, but it's that's a hard push,
Right.
but WEMA is being recognized more and more by members of Congress as the voice of the manufacturers in our industry.
I see it with LinkedIn updates. I see pictures of certain committees from WWEMA being able to meet on Capitol Hill on a regular basis, and it really is an avenue that that without the association, the name behind it, and the history behind it, it would be very difficult to do sort of in isolation as a one-off. So it's a huge
Right.
beneficial part of being part of WWEMA. Talk
And
to
the
me.
and the scheduling on this is important because in April we've got Water Week where there's the
Yep.
big fly-in and all the associations just kind of flood into it. And for us to be able to get an audience with those members of Congress ahead of Water Week, it keeps us out of the crowd. I mean, there's more of a chance of getting their focused attention on this. So I just wanted to make sure I got that point across.
Without a doubt. Again, very difficult to do in isolation, but the
Yes.
fact that the WEMA machine is behind it makes it that much more a welcoming meeting. Talk to me
Hmm.
about Baba. I don't know. Have you heard of Baba? Like, is it a new
Man,
term?
what is it?
I mean, if I have to remind you, I can read
Yeah. It's
the
probably it's probably my most demanding non-paying job.
right.
You
Well,
know, when
talk to me about Baba and what WEMA is doing for its members related to its understanding, their understanding of Baba, and how they can implement whatever the interpretation is, of which WEMA is very good at interpreting in that
Absolutely.
contract. So talk to me about that.
Quick history on Baba and my involvement. When during the Biden administration, when the bipartisan infrastructure law came out and it had the Baba regulations on it attached to it, and then it got attached to all of the EPA appropriations going forward. We really needed to figure it all out. And so WEMA formed a BABA subcommittee, which was a subcommittee of the Legislative and Regulatory Committee. And we really set to work and because we are WEMA, we had access to people from EPA that were helping us to interpret those new regulations regarding the domestic content specifically of manufactured products. And so as time went by, we worked with EPA. In fact, Airzen, as a member of WEMA, hosted people from EPA to show them what we had in mind, and that is available to any member that wants to bring EPA in again under that WEMA logo. Where it's just like, oh, we're members of WEMA. All of a sudden, we have a certain level of credibility. So it's gotten to the point now where every manufacturer knows where they stand, whether they're 100% compliant or 0% compliant, how to figure out how to navigate that, and I think WEMA played a big part in that. Right now, though, with the change in administration and what changes there are at EPA, which is a little bit unstable at this point, they're they're supposed to come out with another guidance document, which, is so important because we've kind of, we've built our BABA compliant products along a certain guideline. If the rules have changed, we need to know. So we are following up with EPA as much as we can. But again, I'm not going to say it's a black hole, but there's still a lot of questions right now because the staffing in EPA, especially as far as the Office of Water, it's still kind of in flux right now. But we are keeping at it. And again, I'm going to reference another expression from Claudio, who says, "If you're not at the table, you're on the menu." And we have to stay at the
Right.
table
Without a
with any
doubt.
changes that are happening.
I mean, speaking about Claudio, one of the things that I know has occurred is there's companies that have very specific questions about BABA that are very specific to their specific circumstances and their
Sure.
business. I know that Claudio has taken calls and had meetings one-on-one with WWEMA member companies to help guide them through what we know and what we understand, interpretations
Mhm.
of BABA that affects their business specifically. So it's just another quiver that we can utilize in our arrow pouch there to make sure that the WEMA members can stay informed of the latest and the latest interpretations of what BABA has to say and how specifically it's going to affect their business.
Absolutely. It's another resource that comes with membership.
Mhm. And well, which there's a lot. And I want to sort of switch gears here on you a little bit to talk about marketing and membership engagement, which is near and dear to my heart as a member of that committee for quite a while. Do you want to speak to some of the things that we're doing on the marketing and membership engagement side?
Absolutely. And I'd like to take, just like I did with Baba, take a little bit of a broader view on it because in the past we would come out, WEMA would issue monthly newsletters. And, while that's good for informing the membership and all that, honestly, just, a long-winded newsletter is just going to end up in the email pile. I'll read that later and later never comes. We want to make sure that we have proper, effective communication with our membership. And so, some of the steps that we've been taking, especially this year, which comes along with the strategic plan that we worked on so hard and realizing that communication with the membership is paramount because that's the way our members know exactly what we're doing.
Right.
So we're doing things like exactly what we're doing right now with the video. But we've also started this. It's it's an app. It's a website. It's called Glue Up. It's a way to reach the membership. We can form subgroups in there. I think every member has been given an invitation to basically sign in and start up, and it's an easy way for us all to stay in touch
Mhm.
regardless of, what company we work for. It's all about, bringing it together and finding out what's going on within the membership and staying in touch in that regard.
Streamlined engagement is how we
That
sort of
is a good
approach it,
word.
right?
Yes.
I mean, it tackles almost everything. It keeps us engaged with each other. There's, as you had mentioned, there's ways to communicate with other members and subgroups. That came out of our emerging leaders feedback, that there needed to be a place where members can just engage with each other and not necessarily have it be once or twice a year at our meetings, right?
Yes.
So that's an important part of it. Plus, you can streamline your membership, your attendance, and registration at the live events. So there's a lot going on there, and
Yes.
I think we even determined this. A couple of us registered live while we were at the board of directors meeting, and the feedback was that took 5 seconds, 10 seconds,
Right.
and we're in.
Yeah.
We're in, baby.
Right.
So like it's easy, simplistic. You can understand it, you can follow it, and it keeps us engaged. So that's big news. What about the website? The website's been a big one. Is it
Yeah.
finally? Is it? Are we finally almost there?
We're finally almost there.
Yeah. All right. But
Yeah.
this time Unlike, I know all of you out there, WEMA members have all been part of a website redesign or website update or website creation.
Right.
And whatever date you have this far out before you start the process, it's going to get pushed. But we are close, right? I mean, we are
We
so
are.
close.
Yes, yes. And I've seen well, last week with the board of directors meeting, Diane showed, what the new website would look like and all that. I guess it's still in what they call sandbox format, where it's
It's in
not
stages.
officially launched, but this is what it's looking like. And it's so much easier to navigate. I mean, that website, it served its purpose, but it got to be so big and so clunky
Mhm.
that, when you have to, when it's not intuitive, it tends to be avoided.
Yeah.
It's like you just pull out what you need, but you don't use the resources that are really embedded in there. Until you know where all those resources are, you're not going to use it. So again, looking forward to a much more interactive website.
So a couple of things I just want to touch on here related to marketing and membership. So over the years, WEMA has leaned into its associate members, namely Water Online, to utilize certain media, certain interviews, marketing, publishing, that type of thing. But it's important
Sure.
as an association that we lean into every association that we are partners with, and that includes Endeavor, which it looks like we're going to be doing some podcasts in the near future around certain topics that are important to our members and leaning into Endeavor's capabilities in that manner too. So that's an
It
exciting
is.
thing coming down the pike. The other thing that we want to talk about, and this is something because this will be the first time we're trying this, but it really does add a benefit to WEMA members, and that is the WEMA Hub at ACE 2026. So what can you tell us about that?
Well, at this point, we're looking to establish a pavilion to make it more affordable for individual members to be able to participate.
How's that work? So when you say it's more affordable, are you talking about like, all right, so if I'm a WEMA member, and
Hmm.
we all know that attending conferences and trade shows is expensive.
It
There's
is.
there's
Yeah. Buying a
front-facing
booth
costs.
could
Right.
be, thousands of dollars. And if we can help to kind of pool those resources and have a place where our members can be identified rather than just walking the floor and
Yep.
hoping for the best, then if it can be under sort of the WEMA umbrella and they can have a presence there
Yep.
and it's less out of pocket. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's if it's less out of pocket and gives them a presence there and a place where people can converge and they know that this given manufacturer is going to be in the WEMA pavilion, then then they get something out of it rather than just kind of anonymously walking.
Without a doubt. And if, for those of you out there that are interested in hearing more about that, now that ACE is about 90 days away, please feel free to contact Diane. She's more than happy to walk you through what that process looks like and what the idealistic pavilion slash hub and presence at ACE 2026 is going to look like. Speaking of where we are in the calendar, Mr. Chairperson,
Yes.
we are right around the corner from the Washington Forum and Emerging Leaders meeting, taking place April 15th through the 17th in
All right.
our country's capital, Washington, D.C.
Absolutely.
What should we be discussing there?
There are going to be a number of topics. One of the things that we discussed earlier in the year was to make sure that the topics that we're going to be presenting on are not only relevant, but maybe with a fresh look. We have been bobbed to death. We've been tariffed to death.
Yeah.
We've been cybersecurity to death. Now, all those topics are relevant and important, but to just kind of, have people come in, have members come in and just basically update and recycle, it just doesn't have it doesn't have quite the level of attraction of some of the things that are also out there. And
Right.
one of those things is data centers. I
Yep.
mean, data
Huge.
centers,
Huge. Huge topic.
It's huge. I looked at a recent LinkedIn post, and it's unbelievable the hundreds of data centers that are out there, and they are a big energy sink, as we know. I think Microsoft even started up a unit from 3 Mile Island to provide the power to one of these data centers. They are also a water sink. I mean, they use a lot of water because all the heating that takes place with all of this, all of the computing.
Mhm.
There's a certain amount of evaporative loss, but there's also a certain amount of wastewater that ends up getting produced.
Yep. For the
And
coolant.
how do you deal with that? It's not your typical municipal plant, but they are growing all over the place. So some of the challenges that we're going to be looking at or be facing with these data centers is a relevant and I don't know what the word is, but it is, it's a new topic. It's fresh, and we're going to be bringing in some experts on that too.
I mean, it's not just fresh, it's very pertinent. It's going to
That's
affect
the word, pertinent.
it's going to
Yes.
affect everybody. Every
Yes.
municipality, every area is going to get a data center within a certain radius.
Right.
It's happening. Once again, WWEMA is taking the lead on this and trying to get out in front of it to offer some guidance as to how the equipment manufacturers can react. They can offer solutions for this problem that we are now starting to face.
Yep.
Another topic that I know we're going to cover in DC that's at the forefront of a lot of minds in the water wastewater equipment manufacturing orbit is AI.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, without it, um, it without being able to tackle that, we'd sort of be at a disadvantage. And here's why. And tell me if you concur with this and why it's important we're covering it in DC. Is the fact that AI is going to affect not just their business, but their customers' business, municipal business, industrial business, all of it. So the fact that we are going to be able to offer some guidance, which again is something new and fresh
Hmm.
as we go into the meeting next month. But at the same time, man, this is important. AI is tough to understand because there's so much nuance to it. But we have it as well covered as any association has in the industry. No,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. And it's interesting how AI has sort of, crept into our daily lives.
yeah. It crept in loudly, but it crept in.
Well, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, it's
to a
here,
greater or lesser extent,
right?
even you're writing a text and it finishes the sentence for you. I mean, that's AI. I mean, it's just, even on a bigger scale.
Sure. Yep. No
So,
doubt about it.
this kind of goes hand in hand with those data centers as well,
Mhm.
because it's like we kind of take for granted the impact of AI, but
Yeah.
it's there and it's going to be impacting manufacturing and it's going to be impacting our industry. So to keep everybody informed, I think it serves our membership well.
Uh, as we start talking about some other events, I just want to bring up the next one that we're going to be discussing quickly, and that is the Finance and Contract Administration meeting in Indianapolis. The date on that is still being finalized, but the
Yes.
importance of it. I don't know of another association out there that educates its members on those basics. Because let's face it, finance and contract administration and contract creation, all of those things may seem basic, but they are complicated. Like low key complicated, to use a term
They,
that the younger
yeah,
generation uses. It's low key complicated.
low key complicated. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Keeping myself young.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I in my own personal business within Airzon, I have gotten more involved with contracts and payment terms and liability and all of that more than I ever have, and I don't think that's uncommon. So I
Sure.
think for all of us to have a better a better understanding of it. We're in a litigious world too. So it's, we want to make sure that everything is agreeable to all parties and that when things go wrong, we have a path forward and all that. And one thing I'll say about the Finance and Contracts Administration, I've been to several of them. And it's very interesting because within WEMA, there's a certain networking benefit, and a lot of the people that I'm networking with are either competitors or customers.
Right.
Companies that buy our blowers to put into their systems and all that.
Yep.
And so there are times when we have, we were both presented with a contract, and your purchase order has a certain terms and conditions, and we have ours, and how do we come together? Well, this FNCA sort of, I don't know, it's like we put our swords down for a little while,
Right. Yeah.
and we try to understand each other in terms of, what we're both looking for, and how does each party consider itself protected,
Mhm.
sufficiently covered, just in case of various things. And it becomes more collaborative than anything else.
And collaboration means more in this market than it does in many other industries, because we're all going
Absolutely.
towards the same goal, which is public health.
Right. Right.
Everybody's sort of rowing the boat in the same direction, which is fantastic. President's
Mhm.
Council in September. That's going to allow our senior executives to discuss, obviously, a wide range of topics that are impacting the industry. So more information to come on that. And then, of
Yes.
course, the grand finale meeting, our annual meeting at the end of 2026, or towards the end, which will happen November 3rd through the 6th. Mr. Tom McCurdy, did you want to let the audience know, if they don't know, where the annual meeting will be taking place later on this year?
Nashville.
Nashville, Tennessee. There is no better place for such a conference and such
At,
a meeting
at,
than
at the
Nashville.
Margaritaville Hotel.
At the Margaritaville
Yes.
Hotel. I certainly
And we
would.
might also be playing our own music there. That's yet to be determined.
Wow, this is a can't miss event. So plan it now, put it on your calendar now, get to your travel person within your business and get those tickets purchased, get your
Get
hotels
yourself
reserved.
there. Absolutely.
More
Yes.
information on the way. Tom, what else would you like to add before we sign off here for the members to know? Did we miss anything, or did we hit on all the notes?
I think we hit on all the notes. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that, I feel like WEMA does a lot of great work, and it really is up to us to make sure that everybody in the membership, and prospective members, understands what we're doing, and gets that proper communication. I think communication has been a key element with our organization so that everybody can understand and appreciate the value of their membership.
Without a doubt. And I would encourage all of you out there who are watching this video to share it. Share it with your coworkers. Share it with those that would be involved in the membership with WEMA, so that they are informed. It's not just you. It's all those that would be able to take something away from these updates, because we really do touch, as an association, we touch on almost every major pain point that you could have as a business, and we help you run a more effective, efficient, and profitable business. So please share if you can. That would be fantastic. And for all of you out there, thank you for spending your time here with us. Tom, thanks for joining us here on the WEMA Update.
It has been a pleasure.
It has been a pleasure for me as well. And for all of you out there, and for the association members, thank you again for your time. And we will see you next month in Washington, D.C.